Vanilla World of Warcraft has more abandoned content than a man with 11 baby mamas. And that's right, I'm going to be discussing 11 dungeons because that's 11 babies we're going to deep dive into for the vanilla ecosystem. That was a wild intro. I'm not even going to lie to you, G-Fan. What the fuck did I just say? Now, I am going to jump right into it with the Talon dungeon. Now, some of you have never even heard of this, but it was a beginning dungeon, maybe a mid-level dungeon, level 30 to 40 range, that was meant to be within Stone Talon Mountains. Now, a lot of dungeons got scrapped. There was meant to be 30 OG dungeons within vanilla, but we only got 20 at the end of it. And that's because time. Time was the one currency Blizzard didn't have enough of, and they had to crunch like a motherfucker to even get vanilla WoW to the finish line. But this is Classic Plus, and Classic Plus should go back and finish not just those 10 dungeons, but way more than that. And we are going to discuss those 10 dungeons, well 11, and the first one, like I said, is a Talon. Now, it was meant to be a Harpy dungeon tying into the old Talon Queen, the Harpy Lower, or the Harpy Wild God, because it's Night Elf based, and it was meant to be tied into like the Cenarian Circle, the Night Elf Druids, and that location up in the northwestern corner of Stone Talon. There is a quest line there. You deal with Harpies and things of that nature. It was meant to be much more expanded, bigger focus, bigger dungeon, just a better location. Now, the Talon had a lot of its energy and resources scrapped, and a lot of that time and dev effort did go into Wailing Cavern and things of that nature, but they should go back and they should expand upon it and make the Talon Queen be a thing. Make the Talon dungeon be expanded, have the Harpies have a full-on raid dedicated to Harpies. You know why I say that? You know what's gonna make you money? Kunas and Kumas. And what is gonna make them goon and coom? Harpy women in high-res models and details with new bosses. Now, that is a very weird thing for me to say, but let's be honest and real. This is the Warcraft player base we're talking about, and they like what they like. But again, there's a whole story arc, storyline that already exists. All they have to do in Classic Plus is take the existing storyline and expand upon it. Give it more energy, more details, more quest lines, make it a level up raid of some kind, not a raid, a level up dungeon, and essentially do like maybe the level 30 to 35 area, nice little location there. Heck, they could even make it a level 40 to like 45 dungeon. There are different locations and places they could put that dungeon at, but there are levels that could use a dungeon that is consistent and clean. But despite the Talon getting its grips into us, the player base, we are going to jump over into the Caverns of Time. Very controversial place, but right from the get-go, the Black Morass. Now, the Black Morass was meant to be a dungeon within vanilla. It was meant to be one of the first dungeons. It was meant to be part of the Caverns of Time, the Bronze Dragon Flight, all that stuff. Like I said, vanilla has so much abandoned content, and Caverns of Time was a major location. It was meant to have raids, dungeons, alternate looks of different realities, sub-zones, and things of that nature. It just ran way out of time to even consider finishing off the Caverns of Time. That's why, despite the gate being closed, the whole Caverns of Time instance is fully finished. The Caverns of Time we have even in modern day retail is the same Caverns of Time inside vanilla. They never really went back and did much to it. Now, the Black Morass, it's the same dungeon in TBC. It's just mildly tweaked, slightly tuned a bit, but it's the exact same dungeon. There isn't much more content or energy there. It's just the vanilla Black Morass is the same as TBC Black Morass. Except there was a 10-minute long walk getting into the Black Morass dungeon. There was no portal instance. You would just walk there, and the portal instance was at the entrance to Black Morass itself. You guys know when you walk in the Black Morass, you see that portal there? There's actually a 10-minute walk back to the Caverns of Time. Removed because, again, it's a 10-minute fucking walk. Nobody wants to do that going into a dungeon every single time. Now, though, I want to do a slight side segment into the Burning of Andorhal. That is not a vanilla dungeon. That was done by the classic devs, and it's a very amazing paladin questline, going back in time, witnessing Uther's clash with Arthur's the Burning of Andorhal. A very cool and amazing thing dedicated to just the paladin questline. And I think they should take this location and expand it and add it to the Caverns of Time within Classic Plus. They can be one of the first custom-made dungeons that are built into the Caverns of Time that is an interesting location and deep dive for us, the player base, in the Classic Plus ecosystem. Now, the devs have already said that they're planning on making all content evergreen for the future. Now, you guys know what that means. It's essentially Classic Plus. They're making the Burning of Andorhal or saving it in this context for a later SOD phase or for Classic Plus. I don't want to spoil it too much because it's already pretty much finished, but it is very high quality, very high energy. The Truthbearer questline is top fucking tier. Chef's kiss from the devs. Should not have been a paladin questline in the first place, should have been a dungeon from the get-go, but hey, we all make mistakes. They learn, they live, and they're gonna add it in the future as a dungeon of some kind. But we are gonna move on from the Burning of Andorhal to Durnholde Keep, because I'm pretty sure Durnholde Keep was written in vanilla, but only really finished in TBC. Or Wrath of the Lich King. When did they add? But Wait, let me see. But Durnholde Keep was written in vanilla. They didn't have time to finish it after the Black Morass, and then they moved on and finished it within TBC. They never developed it in vanilla, I should clarify. This was written in vanilla essentially, or just before vanilla came out and then expanded upon in TBC. And honestly, just take it. Take the whole Durnholde Keep dungeon, tweak it a bit, fix it, lower the item level rewards, scale it a bit better for vanilla and vanilla talent systems, and then release it as a vanilla dungeon in the Caverns of Time patch or expansion within the Classic Plus ecosystem. Because again, Classic Plus needs the Caverns of Time. It's a good catch-all thing. They can essentially add a new dungeon every phase, every other phase. There's so many locations and lore and history they can deep dive. It's a surprise that retail has never done a Caverns of Time expansion. Just an expansion where you're constantly experiencing alternate timelines, alternate stories, the past, the future, things of that nature. It's just a mad surprise that's never been done in high definition and high quality. But nonetheless, that is the Caverns of Time. And we are going to move on to Gilneas. That's right, another Cataclysm thing. There's a lot of Cataclysm things that were originally OG vanilla things, but Cataclysm had Gilneas, and it was initially designed for vanilla. Now, they never actually got past the conceptual design of Gilneas and what kind of place they were going to do. I'm pretty sure there was meant to be one raid and a dungeon there, but again, I don't think it got past essentially the whiteboard being Gilneas, dungeon, raid, and being forgotten about. So in this conceptual Gilneas, my opinion for a dungeon would be the Siege of Gilneas and opening the gates to allow the Alliance and Horde into it. So essentially, both sides would be the Horde sieging down the gate and pushing it open, and on the Alliance side, it would be the Alliance also sieging and pushing it down from two different sides. To enter it, you deal with the Worgen curse that is spreading and starting to affect. That's how they could start the Gilneas expansion or phase. The Worgen are ramping up, kind of like the AQ event or the Naxxramas event where the Scourge was acting up across Azeroth. The Worgen curse is acting up, and the Worgen are attacking everybody. From the Forsaken to the human kingdoms, the Worgen are out of control, so we gotta siege the gate, push it through, and then boom, you get the Gilneas zone, the Gilneas keep, a raid here or there. They can figure things out of that nature. There is so much content doing Gilneas, and private servers have done some amazing fucking shit. So if the private servers can do it, I know for a fact that the devs can finish off Gilneas and make something just as amazing. And if not, you can just steal the private servers stuff, because what are they going to do? Sue you? It's your game. Nonetheless, the Siege of Gilneas, you open the gate, that should be a dungeon, and it makes it a nice interesting thing. So for the player base, there's like a little portal somewhere nearby, you enter it, and this triggers the Siege of Gilneas raid or dungeon, and then you go in, you do it, and then you come out. For everyone else, you just walk past because the gate's already open, and then boom, you enter Gilneas, the zone. And I'm not going to talk too much about the Gilneas zone because I'm going to do a video about that later in the future, but Gilneas was meant to be part of vanilla. It was a huge portion, it was a huge plan, much like the Emerald Dream, the Dragon Isles, Quel'Thalas, Hyjal, Uldum, and just so many other places. They ran out of time. Now though, Timbermaw Hold. That's right, Timbermaw Hold is both a Jara crater as well as its own separate dungeon. Now, Timbermaw Hold was essentially meant to be a dungeon slash raid. I'm not exactly sure off the top of my head, and I can't find any source that proves it's going to be one way or the other. Now, a Jara crater is meant to be a BG, and I'm going to be doing a video about BGs in the future because there are several cancelled vanilla battlegrounds. That's right, it's not just a Zara crater, there is more than one. In fact, there is 3. There might be 4, but I'm not sure about the 4th one, but that's a teaser for the future. Now, Timbermaw Hold, as you guys know, is meant to connect to the Timbermaw clan, the Furbolgs. They have all the stuff. It's a big subterranean network. It's meant to connect to the Moonglade, to Hyjal, to Azara, to Winterspring, to Felwood. Essentially connects everywhere. And Timbermaw Hold was meant to be a big dungeon location. I'm not sure if it was meant to be 1 dungeon, 2 dungeons, a raid. Again, information about OG vanilla is super fucking iffy, and you have to fill in the gaps. Personally, I think Timbermaw Hold should be us helping the Furbolgs reclaim their subterranean network, because there's corrupted Furbolgs rampaging, mental corruption, old god corruption, legion corruption. There are so many different avenues of corruption that they can take through. We can pick one of them, make it the purpose, cleanse Timbermaw Hold, and unlock it to the world. Now, will they do that? Debatable. Will Timbermaw Hold even be on the paper or the future plans for Classic Plus? Debatable. But it is something they should consider for the eventual long term. Classic Plus is not a 1-year expansion, it's a 10-year plus project. At some point in time, they should come back and revisit Timbermaw Hold and finish off the Furbolg storyline. But that is essentially all the information we have about Timbermaw Hold. There are small snippets here and there, but essentially for the most part, nobody really fucking knows what the plan was aside from a Jara crater and a dungeon. But we are going to move on to the next place we know essentially nothing about, and that is the Bay of Storm. Now, I said the Bay of Storm is a dungeon we don't know much about, but that is a lie because it was actually meant to be a full-blown, ginormous underwater dungeon. It was scrapped for that exact reason. That exact sentence I said was the reason why they scrapped it. It was completely underwater. You were meant to have a breathing mechanism that made you breathe longer, and you had to come out for these little air pockets here or there. And the devs realized, holy fuck, this is agonizing, this is boring, and this is frustrating to play through and experience. We're canceling it. But in Classic Plus, fuck it, make frustrating content, make excruciatingly painful content, make the Bay of Storms. But that is honestly all there is to it. I expect it to be like Naga stuff and things of that nature, Lady Vaja's remnants, Illidari remnants, you name it, it's probably in this dungeon. Probably a ginormous shark boss, maybe some old void tendrils. Whatever you can think of is probably planned part of this dungeon, but that's essentially all we have to go off is underwater nightmare experience. Good luck. If they did add this to the game, it's probably going to be one of the least played dungeons, no matter how fun it is. And the only way to make this place played is make the dungeon loot, the pre-bis grind, essentially necessary. And then boom, it's going to be packed full all the time. And honestly, I don't know what they should do to make this fun experience. Should they make it an above ground experience instead? Instead of making it a whole underground location, should they make it like an underground ruin with water around it, but you're on ground? I don't know. I don't know what the solution here is, but that's the Bay of Storms. Now, we are moving on to underground, but actually above ground because we're in a mountain. Welcome to the Dark Iron Highway, the depths of nightmare, and a location that I wish the devs would expand upon because Dwarven lore is insane and they should really do more about the insanity of the Dwarven clans. Now, as I said, the Dark Iron Highway, it's a whole ass highway that was meant to connect to a location. Some people say Grim Batol and Ironforge, some people say to the Dark Irons of some other kind, and some people say to old gods or deeper into the ground, connecting all the way down to some old forgotten old god. Because remember, when this was done, when the original vanilla world was written and experienced, we didn't know every old god's name, we didn't know the juicy lore about the Burning Legion, the old gods, the titans. At this point of time in vanilla, when they first made the Dark Iron Highway, everything was a fucking mystery. We knew essentially nothing. People forget that, but old vanilla had so many mysteries and just what if scenarios that this could have been absolutely anything. Now, my personal headcanon is it was meant to connect to Grim Batol and be a dungeon that connects to Grim Batol and Ironforge. So the Alliance had an entrance to the Dark Iron Highway dungeon within Ironforge in the Hall of Thanes when you go down into the secret location, and the Horde would have had a different location somewhere else. Maybe a portion of the Dragonmaw clan allied with the Horde, so we had a small reputation to grind there, and let's just get into the Dark Iron Highway from a different angle. Either way, the Dark Iron Highway was meant to be a dungeon, and this dungeon was meant to connect to Grim Batol in my opinion. Now, we're gonna talk about Grim Batol. Amazing segue. Good job, Eben. How about you give us more information about Dark Iron Highway? I don't fucking have any. Apologies, I'm just talking to myself. Insanity is taking root as of this moment. Now, Grim Batol is a ginormous location. It is a megalithic, monolithic, ginormous mega dungeon, mega zone, mega raid. And it was scrapped because again, they put all the energy into Blackrock Mountain. It took 7 months to make Blackrock Mountain. They didn't have time to spend 7-8 months to make Grim Batol. So that's why Grim Batol is unfinished and they never went back to it. I do hope in Midnight in the War Within's successor that they do go into this because the Midnight is all about finishing off Azeroth, kind of like a Classic Plus almost, or a WoW 2.0. But again, we will see what that means in retail down the line. This is Classic Plus. Now, Grim Batol, in my opinion, should have 2 dungeons. Upper Grim Batol should be about fighting off the Dragonmaw orcs and the remainder of their clan within Grim Batol. And the second dungeon should be the Siege of Grim Batol to open the gates. We have to fight the Red Dragons. The Red Dragons are hostile at this moment. They don't want anybody going into Grim Batol. So we fight the Red Dragons and Siege open the gates of Grim Batol, and that should be dungeon 1. So those should be the 2 dungeons for Grim Batol. Now, what were the OG plans for Grim Batol? Aside from the fact that there was meant to be dungeons and raids raids here? We don't know. It could have been anything. So many plans got stopped at the ... raids and dungeons here. Circle it, we'll come back to it. And they never came back to it. That is essentially most of Vanilla's abandoned content. But now we move on to the more civilized parts of the world. Welcome to Stormwind, and welcome to the Stormwind Vault. Now, some of you might think, isn't that meant to be a raid? And honestly, it could go either way. In my personal opinion, I think the Stormwind Vault should not just be a raid, because it should be, but it should also be a dungeon. I think the opening part of Stormwind Vault should be a level 60 dungeon, a max level endgame dungeon. And I think we should be clearing our way through villains, like people in Nixia in prison, freeing all the people that were essentially Varian's friends and helpers, giving us clues to where Varian is, things of that nature. Just essentially going all the way through this entire experience, learning about the story about Inixia's treachery, things of that nature. And then after that's all said and done, at the very end, at the very bottom of the Stormwind Vault should be a raid portal. Kind of similar to how inside BRD is Molten Core, and how inside Upper Blackrock Spire is Blackwing Lair. Inside Stormwind Vault should be the Stormwind Catacombs, or the Stormwind Forgotten Prison. Something old and abandoned and sealed away. And it should be a one raid boss. Some old thing imprisoned a decade ago, 2 decades ago, I don't know when, but something in prison that is corrupted and volatile and nightmarish. What will that one boss be? Who knows? But there isn't many one boss raids if you think about it, and there should be more within Classic Plus. And that is my theory and opinion for the Stormwind Vault. It should be a dungeon first with a raid at the end. But now we move on to Karazhan. That's right, it's a questionable opinion and theory, but I think Karazhan Crypts should either be a dungeon or Lower Karazhan should be a dungeon. Now, one or the other has to be a dungeon. Karazhan cannot be 3 raids because there's Upper Karazhan, Lower Karazhan, and Karazhan Crypts. 2 raids is fine. 3 raids is 1 raid too many. There needs to be a dungeon here. And I'm not sure between Karazhan Crypts and Lower Karazhan which is the better dungeon. It could honestly go either way because both of them are about Medivh's nightmares, the ghosts, his skeletal protectors, and all these things. Now in TBC, Karazhan was one ginormous structure, a 10-man raid. It was meant to be a beginning opening to TBC. In Vanilla Plus, or Classic Plus as people call it, this should genuinely have one of these 2 locations as a dungeon. And if you ask me, I honestly think Karazhan Crypts might be the better dungeon, but honestly, it could go either way. Now, what would these dungeons look like? Again, like I said, Medivh's nightmares, Sargeras' echoes, demonic corruption, orcish influence, Nezul's whispers, Gul'dan's nightmares. There's so many avenues for you to go along this. And no matter how they do it, either location would be a great dungeon. But I want to know, let me know in the comments down below. Would you prefer Karazhan Crypts or Lower Karazhan to be the dungeon, and which would you prefer to be the raid? Now, there are other dungeon locations I haven't talked about. There are plenty of little abandoned concepts like the 6 starter dungeon and things of that nature. And there are so many videos to make about the unfinished vanilla content that we are going to be covering them all in the future. And hopefully with the Classic Plus announcement at Warcraft Direct or the Game Awards, the future for Classic Plus is bright. And I can't wait to share with all of you more and more insanity from yours truly. If you liked this video, please like and subscribe. If you hated it, subscribe and hate every video anyways. Thank you all for watching. Ebonheart out. Peace.